Hey, what's up, world, and welcome to the 105th edition of the Take One podcast. I am your host, August C. Jones, and we got a few things to talk about on this episode. So we're going to get into some teasers that just recently dropped, as well as we're going to get into the box office. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this episode of the Take One podcast. So starting off with the first segment is trailer reviews. Now, two teaser trailers just dropped. They're not anything too spectacular, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. The first one was Birds of Prey. Now, if you guys know me, you've been listening to the podcast or whatever, you know my thoughts on, DC and the wall of DC. I don't call it the worlds of DC, I call it the walls of DC. And basically just signifying that, that's what they do. They throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Recently, Aquaman stuck. So that is one thing. But in any case, so whenever they drop a list of movies that they want to do, at one point they were trying to be like Marvel as far as, give out a whole slate of films where they got like 13, 14 films that's supposed to be coming out within the next 6-7 years or whatever you have, and a lot of them films just kind of fell wayside, or just they put back on the shelf, or just never came to fruition, and they just kept getting pushed back, or just whatever the case may be. They ended up not being spoken of again, or just I don't know. It just never anything happened. One of the films that that we learned about, I think maybe it's about like a year or two ago, that they had, an idea or, a want to make, was Birds of Prey. I'm not too familiar with it in the comic books or anything like that, but I know it has Harley Quinn up in there, Huntress, and it has several other people. I know at one point, I believe it had like Barbara Gordon as Batgirl in the group and stuff of that nature. And recently, as of like last year, they were talking about that they were going to do it, that it was going to start production this year and come out next year along with Wonder Woman. And so basically, me looking at it, I kind of like, I won't believe it until it actually starts going into actual production, like their set photos and everything about it. I won't believe it. And I truly won't believe it until we see the first trailer. Now, as of confirmed, of course, Aquaman just recently hit $1 billion. We got Shazam coming out this year, and I'm talking about the BVS universe, not the off-brand DC films as, Hellboy and the Joker, but I'm talking about, and then they're not off-brands, I don't mean like that, but I just mean like the other ones that are not connected to Shazam and Wonder Woman and them type of films. But as far as, the BVS universe, Aquaman, of course, like I just mentioned, just dropped. Shazam and then Wonder Woman are definitely, Shazam and Wonder Woman are definitely coming out. And it is part of that BVS universe. And so Birds of Prey was among those movies, which I didn't really think it was going to come out too much. But obviously, I'm kind of wrong, but it's still more to see about it. So this teaser trailer came out, and it really doesn't show anything. It really doesn't. It is the literal definition of a teaser trailer. Actually, both of them are. The Toy Story one and this one are literal definitions of teaser, because really it shows some of the actors that's up in there. It doesn't really show too much of them in like their full like costume or anything. I don't know if they started shooting yet or anything, but you see Harley Quinn dressed up and stuff, looking a little different, got her hair up in pigtails, and see her with the bat, and just kind of like laughing around, and seem like she's having a good time with the drink, and that's really all it shows. It doesn't really show too much up in there, but you do see Ewan McGregor up in there. You got Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress. I think you see Journey Smollett Bell. I think that's how you pronounce her, name. As Black Canary up in there. And you don't really see too many people. You see a little kid up in there. Don't know who the little kid is. But I mean, it has it in flashes or whatever. So more than likely, you will have to like do what I did, as in like pause, and all this stuff, just so that you can see who it shows or whatnot. But it really doesn't show. It's literally, I guess you could say, photos. It looked like all the cast members were brought on stage and just in front of like a green screen or whatever type of screen, and just was taking photos, just videos, just moving around, pointing at the screen or something like that. And that's really all that it was. Just kind of like to let you know that, okay, Birds of Prey is coming. And just to garner my reaction to it, I wasn't too taken by it. I know that it was just a teaser, like I just said. I am kind of interested. Excited is not the word, because I'm not too familiar with the property as far as like just the group Birds of Prey, so I can't geek out about it. But I am kind of curious, because so far all we know, besides the movies that is that we hope to come out or said was supposed to come out but aren't coming out with the DC, with Warner Brothers in DC. As far as we know, Shazam and Wonder Woman are the only two solidified movies that we are, prone to expect. And Birds of Prey was one of them that I wasn't really, expecting to come to fruition. Even though you got all this stuff, they put out a picture of it like last year with the amazing proclamation of Harley Quinn or whatever it said, and it was like, okay, well, we'll see if this movie gets made. And it seems like it's going to get made. So if it ends up really, really being made, which I think that's more of a likely now, I am kind of curious to see where they're going to take it. But, I mean, the teaser wasn't really anything. It's just, I don't believe that they have anything shot. Or if they have anything shot, it's not anything super significant to where they can garner a first trailer. So this is all that they really can give us. This is something that, they can shoot for real cheap. All you need is hair and makeup, a good photographer, and then bam, 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 this and that, and have somebody edit it real quick and then throw it out there. It's nothing really cost expensive. But, hey, I mean, whatever. So going on to the next teaser, it's Toy Story 4. Now, Toy Story 4, we haven't got a full-length official trailer from Toy Story 4. So far, we've only gotten 2 teaser trailers as of recently, which we got a 3rd teaser trailer, which is, like I said, a literal definition of a teaser. And it's not even that long. Just maybe a few seconds. It showed Buzz and Woody standing in front of like a background which gets torn out in a circle by Bo Peep, and the caption comes up on the screen, Bo Peep is back. And for those who kind of followed and learned about what the synopsis is about Toy Story 4, even before we got all these teaser trailers and everything else, the ideas that they had for it was that it was supposed to be kind of like a love interest type piece between like Woody and Bo Peep. And still, I don't know as far as the movie goes how that's going to work, where they're going to go after Toy Story 3. I don't know. Like, in my mind, I'm thinking that this may end up being less, like, it's not going to be as good as Toy Story 3. Let's put it like that. What have you thought about Toy Story 3? Because I know a lot of people love it, thought it was like the best one out of the whole franchise, blah, 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 and that it garnered 100% that it got on Rotten Tomatoes and everything else. I don't think that it's going to live up to what Toy Story 3 gave off. I think a lot of people are going to leave from it and be like, it was a good movie, but they could have left it at part 3. That's what I believe. And this is all before any major official trailer has dropped or anything, but it's like that's what I kind of got. It's like, I guess you could say leave well enough alone. But who am I to say? I'm not behind the scenes. Haven't heard anything. I'm not connected. So this is just my thoughts. And we haven't got a first trailer, and we haven't really even seen anything or heard anything from behind the scenes, or anybody that has actually seen footage or of the movie that can give a kind of like a good detail or a good idea of if the movie is good or not, or even at least heading in the right direction of being good, or at least being good but being great or whatever. But I don't know, like I'm gonna have to go see. This doesn't get me too much excited for the Toy Story 4. At this point, I'm not excited. It's not in my top 10 most anticipated list of this year. Just take it at right now. It's a movie that I am looking forward to, that I am curious about, but I can't really garner any type of excitement unless I see the trailer. And see what that does for me. But in any case, let's go ahead and jump right into the box office segment. And so basically how I do these is that I would give you what my predictions were last week over this past weekend, what actually came in the top 5, what new movies are coming out this week, and my predictions for this coming weekend. And so, let's do this without any further ado. So, last week, my predictions of what will come in the top 5, I believe I kept it the same. Yeah, I kept it the same that, actually not the same, but somewhat of the same, that The Kid Who Will Become King would take the number 1 spot. Glass at number 2. The Upside at number 3. DBS Brawley at number 4. And Aquaman at number 5. So it wasn't going to move too much. I think I pushed it a little bit further down. And pushed one out. I forgot what it was. But in any case, Glass did take the number 1 spot over the weekend with 19 million. The Upside took the number 2 spot with 12.2 million. Aquaman took the number 3 spot with 7.3 million. The Kid Who Will Be King debuted at number 4 over the weekend with 7.2 million. And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse rounds off the top 5 with 6.1 million. And another movie that came out last week, Serenity, debuted at number 8, which is not surprising. Even in my list that's wrong, I didn't put Serenity up in there because it really didn't see no advertisement for it. Literally the only advertisement I saw for that movie was if you go to the movies, and I go to the movies quite often. If you go to the movies, then you will see the trailer to Serenity. I can't recall any other time outside of the movie theater that I saw the trailer to Serenity. So I don't think a lot of people knew that movie even existed. Unless you're like a real big movie fan, or you've been to the movies recently within the past months over several times. But as far as looking at this, the one thing besides that, that don't even stand out to me because I didn't even think it was going to make the top 5. But The Kid Who Would Be King came in at number 4. And it's surprising. It's surprising. So, I took over the weekend, me and my son went to the show. I went to the show 4 times from Thursday. Yeah. Ever since Thursday, I went to the show 4 times. I went to go see, what did I see? I saw The Final Wish, which I wish that I haven't seen that movie, because that was just garbage. I'm going to have my review out for all these movies soon. I'm going to try and record them tonight or whatnot. But, yeah, so, and then after that, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, me and my son went to the show each day. Friday, we went to go see The Kid Who Would Be King. And that movie was actually pretty good. I look at, just actually seeing the movie, I don't think it should have came in at number 4. It was actually pretty decent. I actually enjoyed that movie. I really did. I don't think that it should have took the number 4th spot. I think that it should have, at least, I say at least number 3. At least number 3. Since we're getting into week 2, week 3, week 4 or 5, whatever, of certain movies by now, I thought that, it would have probably been very easy to get above certain movies, but obviously a lot of people didn't feel the same. I mean, January is one of those months where I don't think where a lot of people aren't going to the show. So unless it's a really, really big movie like Glass or something like that, or BBS Broadly, yeah, I don't think people are going to the movie theaters that often, at least right now. Not until something truly major comes out. And so that really is kind of like the only standout to me when it comes to the box office. And the movie that's coming out this week is this movie called Miss Bala, starring Gina Rodriguez, and it's about a beauty contestant who is witness to a murder and is forced by the crime boss behind the murder to work for him. And it's a remake of a 2011 film of the same name. This is my first time hearing about it. Not this movie, but just that of the remake itself. I didn't know it was a remake until just recently, preparing my notes for this podcast. And really, I'm not too excited. I'm going to go see it. It may end up being like good, really good. I'm not too enthused on seeing it. Now, when it comes down to it, I've seen more trailers for this than I have seen with Serenity. But given the fact it's kind of almost the same. I've seen some trailers while I'm on YouTube, and I don't really watch TV, so I can't really say that I've seen it on commercials or anything like that. But it's not too far away from what Serenity did as far as like the advertisements and promotion and stuff. The marketing for it was really poor, but I kind of have more of a, I guess you could say, optimism for this movie than I did Serenity, but I think that it's not going to top in the top 5. I believe it's not going to crack it at all. It may not be in the 8th spot. It may be worse. It may be one up, or may end up being at that number 8 spot. I don't know. It doesn't have any names. Super duper names. I mean, it has a couple names up in there. It has Anthony Mackie up in there, but he's not as well known as, say a Robert Downey Jr. or a Chris Pratt or something like that. He's not a recognizable name. And Gina Rodriguez, unless you've seen the movies or shows that she's in, you're not really gonna know who she is. She's not a recognizable name at all. So I don't think that this movie is going to crack the top 5, though I am, wanting to see that. When it comes down to it, I think that the weekend box office is going to stay the same this weekend. The only difference is I think Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse is going to end up making more. It's going to end up making more. Am I saying that right? It's going to end up making more than The Kid Who Would Be King. I believe that. I believe that The Kid Who Would Be King will jump down to number 5, and Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse will be at number 4. So I think that's really as simple what it boils down to. But other than that, yeah, there's really nothing else to talk about when it comes to the box office. And now, since we got some time to kill, I might as well just do some movie reviews to go ahead and finish off this podcast. Now, I haven't been doing themes as far as when I put out a movie reviews on my, on the podcast or whatnot. But with this one, I guess you could say horror fails would be the theme, because I'm doing 2 movies that are horror movies that are horror fails. Horrible, I guess you could say. The first film is a film that I touched on a little bit that I seen last week, this past Thursday. It's called The Final Wish. Now, this is a movie that was part of Fathom Films. If you guys don't know what that is, those are just like little events they'll have at like your local movie theater, whether AMC or whatever they may have it at. And it may have a movie showing for 1 day or 2 days or, a week or something like that. It's just little special events, and it goes from just independent films to older films that maybe have an anniversary. I believe that they got one on The Wizard of Oz, which is going into the 30th of this month. Into the 30th. So, whatever. And this was one of those movies, and they wasn't showing this movie wasn't showing at a AMC at the AMC near me or any theater truly near me, so I had to go a little bit further to go see this movie. And I really didn't see too much about it, so I was just going into there with an open mind, expecting it to be a horror film because that's what it's advertised as, but just kind of went into it, not really seeing too much of a trailer or anything to it. I had an idea of some of the stars, Lin Shaye up in there. And upon watching this movie, I realized that a lot of times when you're watching a movie, you could tell a lot about what you're going to get from a movie from the first scene of the movie. And the movies that I'm talking about today have basically the first scene reveal exactly what to expect with the rest of the movie. And this, from the first scene, this movie was shit. It cost me $12 to get into this movie, and I couldn't use, my AMC stubs or whatever, A-list or whatever, because it went at AMC. I went to go see it. I went to go see it at the Marcus, and it was shit. It really was shit. There was nothing to gain from this movie as far as liking it. I looked through it after I saw it, had time to marinate over the weekend, and I really cannot think of anything good that this movie had to offer. The only thing I can really think about that it tried. That's really about it. That acting was horrible. It was bad. One in particular, the main, I guess you could say, love interest girl. I don't know her name. I don't know if she has been in anything else, but this was like oh my God, she was just horrible. She had no direction in this film at all. She was like, her lines delivery was just oh my gosh. Man, this was a movie that I contemplated on walking out, but I'm like, I spent $12.50 on this bullshit. I might as well see it all the way to the end. This movie was riddled with jump scares galore. It was just covered with them, and it was overused. Like those jump scares to where it was like nothing truly was scary. It's just the thing that would get you would be the sound that it makes, and it was bad, just horrible, and it made what was on the screen, it tried to make it seem like it was more scarier than what it was. And it wasn't. Had bad editing choices. It was certain parts of the movie where I'm looking like, hold on, why did they have to show that? What? Like, it was just, in my mind, I'm just thinking like, okay, they could have edited that little part out. They didn't need to show that happening. They could have just went from point A to point B. They didn't have to go point A and a half, And that's what they did. Bad editing choices all throughout the movie, and just goes along with the acting. Unrealistic reactions to certain things that happen. And it was just, I'm like, that's not how a real person would react in this type of situation. And I'm just dumbfounded by just the stupidity of this. It's not scary, or it has a point where it's scary, but not even scary, but I say a little bit creepy, but that's only because it's accompanied by sounds. And it's not really banking off of just the environment or just, the tension maybe between characters to, set, the scariness, creepiness off. It's banking on the jump scares, the sounds, the loud sounds. And that was just the thing about it. It was just noise. That what really got you. It wasn't scary, it was just noise. The noise telling us, be scared. This is a scene to be scared. And it did not work. It worked against it more than for the movie. The writing was bad, just completely horrible, laughable to a certain point. Like literally, you get to a certain point in the movie, or I got to a certain point in the movie where I just was like, I just started laughing because I'm like, this is funny. This is not even scary. And it was bad how funny it was, and it should not have been that way. It really shouldn't have been that way. There's a scene in the mental home where you could tell the budget had reached this peak because it looked like it was just an old abandoned house, and you got like 3 mental patients up in there, and you got like 2 workers there. And that's it. Like, it literally looks like an abandoned home. It doesn't look like a mental facility. It looked like they just pick an old abandoned home in the woods and just like, okay, we're gonna shoot there for the day. And that was it. Like, it was just horrible. Horrible. And it's like, you could do a lot with a low budget. It's just as long as you work within your means. That was working out of their means. They could have had somebody else be in that house where they're being taken care of by a nurse, and probably could have paid that off a little bit better, or just a phone call or something. I don't know. It was just bad. The side characters was all throwaway. You didn't care for any of the characters, and really, truly, barely any like character development. And if there were, you really, it really, you didn't care for the characters, even still. Just a lot of characters came in and out of the movie that you forgot about until they came back into the movie. And if they were taken out of the movie, it wouldn't have made no difference. They were just there. They literally could have been standing in the background as the tree in certain scenes, and they would have made just as big of an impact as them being in the forefront. This movie was just bad. In conclusion, this was just a total mess of a film filled with bad acting, bad storytelling. It tries to do something. I give it that, but it fails at it tremendously at being a psychological thriller, and that's what they were going for. And it was really a total waste of my money. I could see where they were going with it. Lin Shaye, she seemed like she was trying to work with it, that she saw something that, that the director, the writers were trying to get across, and she tried to do her best, but she just overperformed, overact, and that's just something you don't do with a good actor. It just was bad direction through this whole film, and it was just, this is a movie that if it comes across your scanner on Netflix, or you see it, whatever, streaming or whatever, pass it up, because this movie is not even worth your time. Not even worth your time. It definitely wasn't worth my money. Not $12.50. There's other movies I could have spent that money on. DBS Brawley was one of them, and I saw that twice. And I don't regret spending $25 on that, because I see, but yeah, that was just horrible. It gets a 0, a big fat 0, man. And so this next film, Hannah Grace, I'm going to get into the synopsis. I didn't get into it with the other film because it's not worth it. Hannah Grace was at least had some enjoyment out of it. It's about a recovering drug addict female who takes a job at this morgue, an overnight, the grave shift. And so she ends up getting the body of Hannah Grace, who died during the exorcism. And during the body stay in the morgue, while she's working there, she ends up starting to see that there is certain things wrong with the corpse, and certain weird things are starting to happen during her shift at the morgue. I said things twice, but you get the overall gist of it. And that, one of the things, is the plus. This has a setup for a great horror film. This was a movie that I didn't have too much expectations for, but just the setup about it intrigued me. Just to set up a girl who works at a morgue, who gets a body that is a victim of a failed exorcism, and things start happening. Like, that is right there. Like, literally, you could probably give that to any film exec, and they'd probably like, okay, you got me. Tell me more. Or, they're probably like, oh my gosh, make that. Because that is an awesome idea. And I really did get a lot of enjoyment out of this film. I enjoyed Shay Michelle, who as the lead, who had the best, as being the lead, she had the most character or whatever. I ain't going to say character as far as like personality, charisma, but as far as development and everything else. And I really did like her as the lead. She did a good job, and I really did enjoy her. this movie, besides The Final Wish, had a scary environment. This really did play off of the environment. It didn't. I mean, it did have some jump scares, but it wasn't like literally in bed with the jump scares. It didn't depend on the jump scares. It depend a lot of it on the environment, and it was creepy, and it was like one of them environments where it's like, I don't want to be up in there. I would not take that job in the first place, but I don't want to be there. It was kind of like one of those scenarios, and it did have a lot of subtleness that it was like little small things that if you weren't paying attention to the scene, then you would miss it, and I did really appreciate that. So it had you to basically pay attention to what was going on in the scene. But it did have a lot working against it. It had bad decision making, which I hate in horror films. I feel like somebody could do something smart and get that short end of the stick, and that could keep the plot going. They don't always have to do something stupid or say something stupid just to get the plot going. It wasn't really scary after a certain point. It did have its creepiness to it, but it wasn't truly scary. Really no likable characters at all, besides the main character. And this film was filled with just a lot of throwaway characters who weren't going to survive at the end. The dramatic parts really did fall flat. There was not enough time given to develop a lot of just the parts, even just having to deal with the main character, even though I did enjoy it. Hannah Grace, oh my God, how she looked when the body was possessed wasn't scary, and just it reminds me of another movie. I can't really say because it would be giving away too much, but it was kind of, oh my gosh, it went from being like a regular type of horror film to being something totally different. That's all I'm gonna say. And once I saw what was happening, it was like, okay. And like I said, with The Final Wish, this is one of those movies where the first scene sets the tone for what to expect for the rest of the film. And that's what I got with this film. As soon as the first scene ends, I'm like, okay, now I know what to expect with the rest of this movie. And I wasn't let down from my assumption. But this movie, this is a film that is completely worth skipping. If you can find it in the theaters, it's worth skipping. If you can find it streaming, check it out. Whatever. It really doesn't have anything to offer but being potentially a good horror film, but decides to go the other route. It becomes unenjoyable at a point with a cliche horror tropes, and to add to just the mess that it is. Wasn't truly as big of a mess as The Final Wish was, but this is a movie that could have been something great, but it wasn't. So with that, I give it a 3. It wasn't totally a throwaway, but it's not a movie to go out your way to go check out. But if you come across it, nothing to do, and you see it on Netflix or Amazon or wherever you may go, and you can watch it through Amazon Prime or Netflix or whatever, check it out. Hey, you may end up liking it. And so with that said, that ends this episode of the Take One podcast. I'd like to thank you guys for listening. And I will be doing another one based off of the Oscars. I wanted to connect it to this one just like I wanted to do it to the last week's episode. But it took up a lot of time. It really did. Adding it to this podcast, it would have been almost an hour. So I'm going to put it on a different podcast episode. I may do it as a podcast extra. I don't know. But I will be putting that out as well, as the way you get my thoughts on the Oscars. And I will be putting out a lot more content this week. I have a lot more movie reviews and such to put out this week. So with that said, I will catch you guys on the next one. Hey, before you guys leave, make sure you hit that like button as well as that subscribe button. And you see that little bell, make sure you hit that to turn on your notifications. That way you'll be notified for anything that appears on my channel. Hope to see you guys next time. Peace out.